Hello and welcome to Geek First Sidequest, your weekly stop for video game news, reviews, and more here on the Geek First Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Mark Casterdilmus, and I have with me the survivor of survivors, Taylor Field. How are you doing, my friend? It's been a bit since you've been on Sidequest, so how's it going over here?
I guess it has been a bit. I wish I could remember the last episode I was on.
I want to say it was like 4 weeks ago of Sidequest.
Sounds about right. My monthly cameo.
Well, I mean, I have the classic rotation is, like I'll bring you, Travis Kirkland, kind of rotate that unless there's like something pertinent for any one of you. But then I also had Shar on for the Resident Evil review, so that kind of pushed that cycle back a little bit. So it has been a few weeks at this point, but I'm glad to have you back here.
Yeah, it feels good. I'm always happy to be back, especially to talk about one of my favorite topics of all time.
Yeah, so this weekend, of course, was the Star Wars Celebration, right? Is what they call this thing. So we're going to be breaking down this new Star Wars Jedi Survivor trailer, and there's some new details that have come out about that. And we have some other side content as well. It'll be a weird little episode, but I think a good one nonetheless here. Just a few quick shout-outs. The first thing and the most important thing is that, Sidequest has been around for a whole year now, but it is still the newest Geek First feed in that way, and we're still trying to build this thing up. And we need a lot of reviews. We don't have any reviews on Sidequest feed. And I know most people do still listen to Sidequest through the main Geekverse feed, but we also, of course, have the separate Sidequest feed itself. That's just the Sidequest content, just the Arcane retrospectives. All the video game stuff is tucked neatly into that one package there. So here's my request of the audience, of the people who listen. If you like Sidequest, or if you don't, if you want to leave a bad review, that's cool too. I just want any reviews at this point. So yeah, once again, even if you listen to Sidequest through the main feed, I would just love it. I would be so happy if you could go over to the Sidequest specific feed and leave a review there, whether that's just dropping a star rating on Spotify, or really helpful to go over to Apple Podcasts there and leave a review there. Essentially what it does is the more reviews we have, it puts us higher in the search engine, and then when people put in later this month Star Wars Jedi Survivor review, we'll just pop up higher in the list, and it helps to get more eyes on it. There's a ton of big games coming out this month, next month, and in the summer and stuff like that, so it would really mean a lot to me if people can do that. If I don't check the reviews every single day, so I might miss it, but I will try and show you out if I see it. And if I don't see it somehow, you can message me on Twitter, or just join our Discord. Let me know you did it there, and then I'll shout it out. I'll show you out live on the show. And, I also say you can tuck a question in there, or a topic or something like that, and we'll add it into the show, just as a bonus incentive there. Other things to shout out: the Arcane retrospective is going strong. We just released the Dishonored Death of the Outsider retrospective there. A little bit late, and this episode's also a day late as well. Sidequest a little off schedule this week, but go check that out. We did a review for the Mario movie last week, so make sure you go check that out as well. And then just the classic things: Patreon to get episodes early and ad-free, and as well as that Arcane Retro stuff there, and all the other stuff we're doing. And, check out Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you do your social medias. We're everywhere there, the website and all that good stuff. I think that is pretty much it for the shout-outs. Let's get right into it. Taylor, this happened a few weeks ago, but since I haven't had you on in a bit, I've just been saving it on my Sidequest notes tab. But do you know anything about Splatoon? Have you ever played Splatoon, or do you know anything about how it works?
I do know the rough idea of how it works.
Okay.
You shoot the goop out. You can squidify, travel through the goop.
Yeah.
And it's a team-based shooter.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I don't know if you saw this, but they do these things that are called Splatfest, right? And it's like a thing that runs for a month long or something like this. I don't play the game, so I don't know the exact details. But essentially, they have a thing that's like, what's your favorite kind of chocolate? And you pick a team. So it's like, I'm on dark chocolate, I'm on white chocolate, whatever. And you go on this team. And then I don't know if it's a specific mode or if it's all modes, but essentially you're on that team, and your color is coordinated based on what team you're on. And then for the whole month, people battle it out, and at the end they announce the winner as Team Dark Chocolate won for the month, whatever it was. But last month, excitingly, they did the which cryptid is real, or which cryptid do you think has the highest chance of being real, essentially, is the hook for it. and there was 3 teams. There was Team Nessie, Team Bigfoot, and Team Aliens. So I need to get your take on this in terms of, first of all, like with that prompt, which one do you think is real? I'm sure you, of all people, probably think all 3 of these are real to some extent. But like, where would you put your vote? Which team would you be fighting on? I don't know what color each one of them were, but like Nessie's probably purple, Aliens probably green, Bigfoot brown. I don't know what color they'd make Bigfoot, but where would you be throwing your paint?
First of all, I love how broad of a term just aliens just in
I
general.
know, right? Yeah. And of course the image is like the classic like big green alien head with the black eyes, just the generic concept.
Yeah. I'm biased. Like I feel like I'd have to go with Bigfoot. Just speaking to, I got Bigfoot art all in my office and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, Bigfoot. That's getting the paint. So how would this work? I would give them like paint, like actual paint in a bucket.
You would be on that team, right? And then when you're just doing battles and stuff, if you're in one of these Splatfest team battles and you win the game, then like that you've got another win on the board for that team, and then it collaborates all of the games that have been played in the last month, and then they like declare a winner or whatnot. But you gotta I don't know exactly what the dictionary definition of a cryptid is. I did not know aliens like fell under the cryptid moniker. Is that a stretch or is that pretty spot on?
I think it's kind of personally, I think it's kind of a stretch.
I think of that as more like earthly, mysterious beings and stuff like that.
Yeah, astrological, extraterrestrial phenomenon. Yeah, cryptid is. I kind of encompass that to animals and creatures on our planet, like you said, earthbound, and they have to be proven real. They're not proven real yet, not mythological, but yeah, aliens. That's a whole other ball game.
Yeah. What team do you think won? Because this, like I said, this is old, so this has happened now, and there has been a winner declared.
I'm gonna say Nessie. I got a hunch that Nessie just came through and got that win.
You're right. It seems like by like double the points, Nessie beat out both aliens and Bigfoot. So how did you just clock that? I know you're pretty into that community, but I feel like this is asking casuals what they think, which I feel like is a whole different. Like for me, I definitely would have been on Team Bigfoot. But it seems like that had the like lowest number here, so I'm kind of surprised by that too. But me and you would have been fighting side by side in the Bigfoot camp.
Well, I imagine they're all gamers of the same, built of the same, water, iron, whatever you want to call it, same caliber. But in terms of like mindset, I feel like people that gravitate to Bigfoot and aliens have very interesting mindsets. And I feel like people that gravitate to Loch Ness Monster and Nessie, again, all different mindsets, but their minds, I feel like they work in a different way compared to Bigfoot and alien followers.
I also feel like, based on that prompt, like which one do you think is real? I think people end up just picking their favorite, or maybe just the color that they like. But like aliens is like objectively the correct answer here, right? Because it's like if you're just having that bucket term of aliens, just any other life out there, it's like obviously aliens would be the correct answer. If there's one fucking tardigrade out in like another solar system, that like counts as an alien, right? So I don't know. I also feel like, obviously, if I was going logical on this and actually answering the question, I would probably pick aliens. But just for the cool factor, I would definitely go Bigfoot myself. So.
Yeah.
But we've missed the chance. We're already out. Our opinions don't matter. We'll see what they do next. But yeah, I had to ask you about that.
I love that.
So yeah, let's move it. Let's talk about some of the games we've been playing. I'm curious what you've been playing lately, because I know we bump around in Warzone there. But like, are you doing much else other than that? Is there anything like, we're gonna talk about some Game Pass stuff later on in the episode, but anything on there that you've been downloading? I'm curious what you got going on over there.
Warzone definitely is at the forefront of what I'm up to, but I will say, and it's been slamming hard since I watched Mario. I've been playing original like NES Mario, and then I've been jumping between I'd say 3. Maybe 4, at least the 3: Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. 2 or 3, sorry, and Super Mario.
Wow, he's just skipping out on 2, just throwing 2 in the trash.
I like 2. Wait, am I getting that confused? Yeah, because 3 is 3.
3 is one that like still has the world map and all that stuff.
Yeah, this is purely a nostalgia factor because I used to have Super Mario World on Game Boy Advance, and I love playing on Game Boy Advance. And then I got from my friend, traded Mega Man or something for Super Mario Bros. 3, and I 100%ed those. I love them. I played them religiously when I was little, and again, going to my cousins playing Super Mario Bros. All the time on his NES. So these are like the peak 3 that I love. Super Mario Brothers 2, my cousin had that on Game Boy. So
it's the black sheep of the Mario games.
It is,
sure.
yeah.
It's classic 2D platformers, at least.
Yeah, there's definitely no sun, but there's the weird like seizure strobe like thing when you take the key.
Dude. Yeah, that thing is terrifying. That thing always scared the shit out of me, for sure.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna get around to that. Travis borrowed my Super Mario 3D All Stars, and he's lucky because I was about to commit because I beat Sunshine. I haven't beaten 64 yet or Galaxy on there, and I was gonna commit, but he snuck in. He's like, "Can I borrow this?" Like, yeah, you can borrow it.
Wow, how very selfless of you. That's great though. I've also been playing a ton of Mario stuff. I've been playing a ton of Odyssey. I actually just beat it. Like I did the boss fight like against Bowser and whatever, rolled credits, but then like that's when that game just like truly opens up, and then there's a bunch more to do. So I don't know how much more I'm gonna play because I just don't love that game as much as other Mario games. Of course, I talked about it in that ranking episode I did. But then me and Muds are playing an insane amount of Galaxy. I think we're almost done, but we're trying to get like 100% completion. So I think we can even go and do the final boss right now, but we are just getting all the stars in every single level before we move on. So that's been really fun because I've never played through that whole game. So that's been a really great experience, and Galaxy is fantastic. So you should definitely check that out. When you get your copy back from Travis, you definitely got to jump in that.
That's happening for sure. I never played Galaxy 2, but Galaxy 1 I'd like to get more immersed.
Was not in that collection that we talked about when we did that review. It's so weird that they just left that one aside and haven't like put it on the Switch in another way. Is such a puzzling choice. Speaking of Nintendo though, I this was also a thing that happened a while ago where at some point you just randomly dropped that you had like, I think you got Pokemon Scarlet or Violet for Christmas or something like that. Which one did you get? You get Scarlet or Violet?
Oh, I don't remember which one I got. Remember? That's how long it was ago that I played it. Because my one friend was like, oh, like me and my other like we're triangle friends. So my one friend was like, hey, let's play this, and so my other friend was like, okay, sure, we'll get it. We'll all play together, which never happened, ironically, but we still bought the game. I want to say I got Scarlet, the purple case.
Well, that would be Violet. Scarlet would be red.
Oh, okay, yeah, definitely Violet. Clearly,
the purple one.
The purple one, yeah.
The Sidequest color. Okay.
Yes.
So you didn't ever play online, but did you? How much have you played just like on your own, hunting around?
I wouldn't say like I've invested like a thorough amount of time, but I've definitely like dished out a good few sessions into it and like got my full team. I can't remember who my team is. I obviously got a Magikarp, which I'm trying to get to Gyarados, the classic, and then my starter. I can't remember which starter I picked. That's long ago it was. I need to invest in it though, because with all the changes with Pokemon Bank and on the 3DS and all that kind of stuff going right now on the eShop, like, there's a lot going on, and so I'm trying to gear up and get my crew on Pokemon Bank profile ready so I can kind of pop them into my console game, because I did that with Pokemon. Oh, what was the predecessor to this? Not Let's Go.
Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield, yes. So I have Sword, and that's one of the that's another one that I got to experiment with, just transferring the Pokemon over. So because I got guys back from 2005.
It's pretty cool.
Carrying over. Yeah, I love these. I got my Kyogre, and I got my Infernape, and I got my Arcanine, my Scizor. Nice. I got my core squad that I love. They
just added Pokemon Coliseum, the N64 game, to Nintendo Switch Online. So I've been meaning to jump in there, and or maybe it's coming out today or like this week or something like that. But I know I've only ever played that like a little bit at a friend's house, and then I think we did it with Gauntlet, but I don't even know if I held the controller and played it. I think I forget who played it. It was so long ago. Probably Jessica to some capacity.
I remember Ruben having
that sounds familiar.
Against Jessica or Kirkland, and he was down to 1 HP with like a Gengar or something, and he pulled
I
through.
Gotta dig out that YouTube video and watch that again. You're right, that there is something in my memory about Ruben and some intense moment there, but that'll be fun to jump into that. And I think they even said in the trailer like you can't transfer Pokemon from this game. I understand that would be a weird case with Nintendo Switch Online and N64 game and all that, but That's pretty cool. So it sounds like you like the game enough. Yeah, it's solid. Maybe not your favorite Pokemon game, but like, yeah, it's good enough time. You didn't seem to have any issues with the performance, which was like a big talking point when that game first came out. It's playable enough for you.
It's playable enough for me. Graphically, I definitely understand what the beef is, but
Looks like
I personally I don't mind. I think as far as it goes for a Pokemon exploration game, I missed playing Let's Go games. And then
you didn't get Legends, right? Legends
I did not
Arceus?
get Legends.
You're right. So that open world experience, I guess, is pretty new for you here, because Sword and Shield has like openish areas, but it's still pretty confined.
It is. It still feels very linear, like your classic Pokemon game. But this just being able, it blows my mind. Just being able to go up onto the hills and just explore, and then you see all the Pokemon. And one very interesting feature, I don't know if Legends did this, but you don't even have to engage in a Pokemon battle. If your Pokemon and your team have enough HP, you can just like click a button and they just go off and they'll just auto fight and auto generate the XP. So the world is just so thriving and vivid. I really like it. It just feels like you are immersed in a Pokemon world. It's very, very cool.
Nice. Yeah, I'm still like very slowly making my way through Shield. It's a game I just, open up every few months. I like forget about it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, and then I like for a few weeks I kind of go ham, and I still haven't beat it, but it's an enjoyable time for what it is. I'm trying to think of who the starters are, because I want to figure out who you pick. There's a duck, right? Quaxley, right? And then there's like a crocodile named Fuecoco or something like that. And then I cannot remember. And there was a cat. There was a cat. The grass type was a cat one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm
looking at them now.
You're probably in the second evolution based on where you're in the game, maybe.
Yeah, I think I went with. Oh my goodness!
The crocodile guy is the one that always looked the coolest to me.
Yeah, I think I might have gone with Sprigatito.
Okay,
because I'm living the cat life right now. So
you gotta live the cat life, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. And then, yeah, I guess for me, the only other thing I've been playing, because I'm just so busy with all these arcane games, playing through Prey right now, but I just finished over the weekend Resident Evil 4 Remake. And I think I realized that in the review that me and Shar did, I was actually further along than I thought I was. Like, I think I was probably a good 75% of the way through the game, so I actually didn't really have that much more. And I've just been kind of busy, but finally got around to finishing it this weekend. And yeah, just such a great time. I mean, go back, everything I said in the review still holds true for me. I was just surprised at how silly the game is. Like, the story is very goofy and the dialogue is just very cheesy action movie. But like the combat's really great. The boss fights are super fun. And obviously it looks great and all that stuff. Pacing's like really solid, and there's so many incentives to go back and do other playthroughs. You unlock a lot of stuff and then just try different runs and try to speedrun it, try and get better scores in that kind of arcade sort of way. So I think when October rolls around, I'll have more time and I'll want at that point be feasting another run. So I think I'll do another playthrough at that point and just kind of explore more about the game. But yeah, I really had a great time with it. I never played the original, of course, but just such a great game, really well made remake as far as I can tell. So I really had a good time with that. I'm glad I finished it now too. I finished it just in time because I feel like a ton of stuff is coming out this month. We're going to talk about some things hitting Game Pass soon. Obviously, I had to finish stuff before Redfall comes out in May. But yeah, there's so many other things, so I had to finish it nice and quickly there. And it's a pretty breezy game. I think it was like 10 hours was my game clock at the end of it. So
dang.
I mean, you factor in I might have had a couple deaths or game open for a little bit or something like that. But yeah, pretty breezy experience for my first playthrough. At least I didn't do too much side questing. I kind of mainlined it for the most part.
It's a lot of jump scares, or were you kind of prepped?
Not really. It's surprisingly like not a horror game, right? Like I always assumed it was, just because I thought that's what Resident Evil was all about. Now that I've been playing more of these games in the last few years, there's just certain ones that are, like Biohazard is a fucking horror game, but like Village, not really. This one, not really. But there is one particular moment where you're in this facility, you're nowhere near any sort of windows or anything, so it's very dark, and then the lights cut out at some point. And then this fucking just disgusting, ugly bastard pops out. Terrifying. So that was one like very, very scary moment. And I tweeted about this, but I think it was like I got into this moment, the enemy popped out, and I verbally said, "What the fuck?" And immediately as I said that, Leon in the game said, "What the fuck?" Like, we said it the exact same way, the exact same words. So that was hilarious. That like the game just completely read my mind, which it does that a lot. Like it puts traps, like bear traps and stuff. And just I walk into I feel like every single one. The game, I just feel like they play tested it so much they know exactly what each player is going to do and what they're going to try to do to like subvert a trap, and then they just put a trap there anyway. I feel like I got caught so much by stuff like that, and that was another moment where I feel like maybe they just had play testers who were so many people in that moment said what the fuck, and they're like, let's make the characters say it too. But yeah, that was really great. So that particular section is very terrifying, and that enemy too like kind of regenerates if you just shoot them like not in the exact weak spot, which is kind of hard to see. So I thought I took him out, but then he just like regenerates in front of me, and then there's another one, and then the lights are cut out, all that stuff. So there is a couple scary moments for sure, but I'd say it's definitely 95% action game, 5% horror game is the way it works out there.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that was a really good time. Why don't we take our first break, and then we will come back and talk about some Star Wars. Okay, we are back. So, like I said, over the weekend, there was Star Wars Celebration, which there was a ton of movie news there. We'll see if any of that turns into actual movies. But if anyone wants to hear a breakdown of that, you, Taylor, and Travis, you guys broke that all down over the weekend, so people can go check that out. But we're going to talk about this new trailer for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is coming out April 28th. And then along with that, there was also been some more like interviews and stuff. So we got a little bit more just kind of info about this game. If you're watching on YouTube, we're just going to go through this trailer. So Taylor, feel free to stop me at any point here. But I guess just quickly, I think with all the movie news, once again, people join the Discord. If you want to talk about Star Wars, I at one point didn't check the Discord for like a couple hours, and then I went on it, and there was like 100 like missed messages, which in our chat, there's not too many people in there. So it's like, that was a lot of discussion, and all of it was people talking about Star Wars stuff. So if you want to have those discussions, I got the place for you. But most of that was centered around the movies. There wasn't really no one talking about Jedi Survivor. So where would you put your hype level on a scale from 1 to 10? Where are you for this thing right now? Because I know you had some issues with that first game, but it's still a great game, and you still really enjoyed it. So where are you at for this one?
Yeah, my hype is there, but I really don't know how excited I really am. I think like I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna play it. And I know I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna get sucked into that Star Wars world. But the story that's being told does not really draw me in that much, and it's a shame. I really wish that it did. So, like I said, I will be there. I do have excitement to be immersed in a Star Wars game once again, and I wouldn't even necessarily attribute that to like my negative take on this to the first one and my experiences with the first one, because the first one, well, it did definitely have some questionable things that happened in my playthrough. I definitely could appreciate the level of difficulty because I've never gotten that mad at a game in a long time, and yeah, so yeah, we'll see.
There's some sections for sure in that game that just straight up feel unfinished, and so they can be quite frustrating. I think for me, it's hard for me to get excited. Its release date is just really bad for me in terms of there's so many other things I'm playing this month, and then it's just days before Redfall, and then that's days before I'm gone for like a whole month. So I'm just not gonna be picking up this game at launch, and maybe I'll check it out later in the year. If not, wait for a sale in the future, because I did really like that first one, but there was moments of brilliance, but then there was also a lot of stuff that once again felt kind of unfinished, felt like they weren't quite there, felt like they needed maybe another year or two to make it like that great experience, but it just ended up being like a pretty solid one. So yeah, I don't think I'm too excited for it. I think this, is a good trailer, as they have had good showings for this thing, but yeah, I guess getting into some of this here, I guess, yeah, there's some new locations, of course, and we'll talk about some of them when they pop up here. But like, yeah, this sandy area, first of all, like, would you know what planet this is?
I feel like it's Tatooine. It just looks like Tatooine, feels like Tatooine. Why not just go back to Tatooine? They do it everywhere, all the other times in Mandalorian and stuff. So
I feel like they're doing, I don't know if I should say more locations that are iconic movie locations than the first game, because the first game definitely had some of that, right? You go to the Wookiee place that I can't remember the name of.
Yes.
Kashyyyk. But I feel like for the most part, it did feel like they were kind of creating some new areas to play with, and maybe deeper in the lore. These places have shown up elsewhere, but Tatooine, and we're going to see Coruscant later on here. Do you feel like that's a big story thing, or then we just tapping into more like places that will get people hyped because of familiarity? Or why do you think they're going back to some of these places? And are you excited about seeing Tatooine here?
I'm very excited. I love going to our familiar planets. The things that I would personally love to see are the canon confirmed planets that we've never been able to see before. I think we went to in the first game. I think it was Ilum, where the Jedi harvest their kyber crystals. And like that was very cool. Again, Kashyyyk, very cool. Dathomir, very cool. So the first game had some great locations, but you're totally right. They definitely tackled some more newer created planets into the universe. And so for this sakes, though, like this game's sake, going to Tatooine is a great start, and just going to those places that we have not fully been able to explore on our own. When it comes to something like Tatooine, I feel like I've immensely explored it in Lego Star Wars, but I'm always down to go back and see what new additions that these creators put into the game.
Yeah. This character's from the first game, right? I can't remember what her name is.
I don't remember what her name is, but yeah, she is going full like shaman mode now. It looks like very prophetic apparel and such. And there's something about her character that I don't know why I wasn't overly fond of. I think in the first game, just how easily, well, not how easily she got bopped, but I guess just how compromised she was, which I like because she's a Jedi and the Jedi were facing tribulations for sure. But there's just something there. I think that's another issue I have too. Maybe some of these characters, it's harder for me to kind of connect with, like Cal. And I mean, the four-armed pilot's probably the only one that I really kind of connected with. Oh, I lied. Dathomirian Witch. Really, really liked her.
Okay, yeah. We'll mention her when she comes up. But what do you think it is about Cal? I would have thought by now you'd be like more invested in him. Is it just strictly because of this events the first game don't get you excited for him to see him pop up again? Like, were you hoping that this could be somehow like a sequel where they would create a new character and go from there?
I would have loved it if this focused on a new Jedi also surviving the times. That would have been fantastic. This anthology kind of series, but
yeah,
focusing back on Cal, I don't know what else he necessarily has to offer. I feel like he's pretty like bread and butter kind of character, if you ask me.
Yeah. What are we looking at here? What is this giant creature?
I have no clue what this thing is. Good Lord. I'm sure it has some kind of a name in the established canon, but I do not know it.
This location kind of looks like, and I don't remember the names of any of the worlds in the first game. I know you just said them all. This looks like that one kind of bigger location that you're going back to a couple times. Maybe the second world that you visit in that game. I don't know if it is supposed to be or it's just generic kind of trees and rocky area. You're all homie. What's your name of the little robot companion in this game again? B12, something like that.
It's BD something like that. Yeah.
BD8 maybe.
I think well, there's BB8. BB8 is the rolling droid. But this is like BD. I think maybe BD12. I can't fully remember.
Here's a classic shot of the wall running. I wanted to ask you about this because obviously that first game is very much just like a Metroidvania, right? Like here's this giant location. You're slowly going to explore it. As you get more powers, you're going to be backtracking and re-exploring those areas now that you can reach them and stuff like that. And there's always a struggle with Metroidvanias. Like, well, how do you do a sequel of that when you just like, doesn't it feel bad to kind of start a new game again with like no power? So how do you think they'll do that? Do you think they'll give you a pretty robust, if not like all of the moveset from the first game, minus some like very specialized moves, and then drip feed it to you again, do you think they're going to do that approach where they take away everything and you start from scratch? Maybe you get a couple new things, or are they going to take everything from the first game, just throw it on Cal at the start of the game, and then introduce like a whole swath of new upgrades, abilities, and things like that?
I wish I could remember how Star Wars The Force Unleashed did it, because they did it in a really, really good way. You get so powerful in that first game, and then the second game comes along, and they've changed it up. Now, it could have been...
do you play the same character?
You
do.
Okay. You do, yeah. And it could have been a result of like, hey, this this guy was captured and they kind of just like tortured him, made him weaker and stuff like that. But yeah, in this sense, I hope they do it right, because I'd like to see what exactly they do, because you get very powerful at the end of that first game with your abilities. The whole story is built upon you being cut off from the Force and you grow into being a Jedi. So if they kind of revert you back down a little bit, I suspect maybe you might come into contact with a powerful enemy. He might kick the crap out of you, or something is going to inhibit your abilities, and you're going to have to either relearn or just kind of they'll dwindle your abilities to be on a smaller scale, and you have to become more powerful, I guess. Train.
Yeah. Because when I watched this trailer and other ones too, like there's only one mechanic that I can really point out as being like a wholly new thing, and that's kind of the mounts that we'll see here shortly. And so I feel like that would be a big thing of how you're navigating these worlds, right? Is the mounts give you access to certain areas that otherwise Cal cannot reach on his own. But yeah, I think they need to make the moveset like pretty powerful at the start of the game, but then it's like hard to bounce maybe around some of that stuff. And obviously like you'll go back to like 1 bar of HP and your damage will be lower, and those kind of things you can crank those up again from scratch, and that's fine. But yeah, hopefully you have like a pretty good move set at least. Even if you let's say you start like with almost nothing again, starting from scratch. I don't know story-wise how you justify that. Of course, that's kind of tricky to do. Especially because like a lot of those abilities, right, came through with like those flashback sequences, right, where you like played as Cal as a kid, and you're like doing these training things. So obviously you don't want to like have players to do that stuff again, but they also need to make it like not too complex so that new players can jump into this thing and like not be overwhelmed. So curious to see how they do that. I guess this shot too also shows something that was kind of confirmed recently, which is that this game seems to be a bit more like M-rated, you could say, in terms of limbs getting ripped off, because that wasn't like a big thing in that first game, right?
Yeah, this has been something very much avoided, I feel like, with many Star Wars games, is dismemberment. That's something that should be included in all of them.
Does it excite you?
It does. It really, really does. I have to like headcanon myself to think like their armor is thick enough that it just the lightsaber slashes at it. But like I really like seeing you swipe at an enemy and it actually shows that reaction to that swipe. Like this guy, he's not playing soccer anytime soon.
No, definitely not. I think it's a good way to, a game like this. Okay, well, are you fighting the same enemy types as you did in the first game? For a large part, like, yes, you will be fighting a lot of the same things, like stormtroopers and whatnot. But this is like a nice way to ratchet that up again and make it exciting to fight them, because they're probably going to be just the most fun enemy to rip them apart. Because I feel like even in the first game, you probably beat certain beasts and stuff like that. You're probably knocking some limbs off here or there. I can't remember exactly. But I just think fighting stormtroopers, like, this will never get old. If the gameplay feels great and then it is as visceral as this, like, that's a pretty exciting thing. So I think it's a good improvement. I don't remember anything like this. Like, I know there's like obviously that big just slide in Kashyyyk that was just the worst thing ever. But I don't know was there any like driving around or any race set piece in the first game? I can't remember.
Not that I remember. This is definitely it almost seems very cinematic. So I feel like it's gonna.
This seems like very much like an Uncharted sort of situation. And the way that like right up here he like throws this guy into the TIE fighter or whatever that is, like that just feels like a kind of scripted event, right? Like I don't think you would actually snipe a guy into a TIE fighter on your own.
No, yeah. I think you're going to be vehicles haven't really been a thing, but I think you'll probably have that option where you're steering
the speeder.
in a Last of or Uncharted kind of style, and then it'll have those sections intertwined where another speeder comes in, like hit A, hit X, and
yeah, for sure. I think here this is where we see Coruscant, right? Which seems to be another huge area in this game, which is actually very exciting for me because I feel like I have a very small perspective of what Coruscant is actually like, just because of the way it's used in the movies that I recall is like you're only ever in like these council meetings or like in this like 1 or 2 rooms or something like that. But I feel like just a section where you're in a somewhat like a larger open area in Coruscant, you're exploring different alleyways and different buildings and stuff like that. Like that's a very exciting thing. That's something I actually do really want to see. Even I didn't really like that exploration of that section in Lego Star Wars last year either. So I think this could be a good chance to get a cool area like that.
Yeah, Coruscant. we need to explore more of it. You're right. Like it was okay, but there wasn't anything superb about it with Lego Star Wars. Going and playing the Coruscant maps in Star Wars Battlefront 2 was always a delight.
Okay.
And that being said, I just think there's so much more to explore here, especially during the dark times at this point in time, so close to Revenge of the Sith. This gets me really excited. I feel like we can really dive into some very cool things here. We've seen it in well, actually, no. In the Bad Batch, I was going to say we've seen a little bit of it, but again, very, very limited from a clone's perspective. But I think here, being on the main head hub planet as Sheev, I think this could be fun.
Yeah. I also, man, like just the lighting that they chose, at least for this particular scene here with this kind of nice orangey sunset. Like, I feel like I'm not used to seeing Coruscant like this. I feel like it's normally very gray and blue. So I feel like they even were able to insert their own kind of flavor into it, which is pretty cool.
Classic troopers.
Oh yeah, so here's our witch girl that you were talking about. So you'll have to remind me if this character is in the first game specifically, or if she's just affiliated with that crew from the first game.
She is in the first game. She acts as kind of like a very much a side character at first. You go to Dathomir and she's just kind of like lurking around, and eventually through unforeseen events, she kind of comes around to your team and she goes with you to the Inquisitor stronghold on one of the moons of Mustafar, and that's where she kind of cements herself as being a teammate. She saves your life, and we get some really cool, I can't remember if it was this trailer or the trailer previous to this one, where we see her actually fighting in what looked like combat sequences with Cal, and it made me wonder, not like we're getting multiplayer, but or it didn't even seem like it was necessarily a cinematic, but it just felt like she was actually on a mission fighting with you, which makes me wonder if you can bring some of these crew members with you. And I mean, her as a character, she's so awesome, especially because most of the Dathomir and witches were all wiped out by Grievous and his separatists. So, and she's using the Force now too.
Yeah, I just love her look. I mean, that's very striking. I guess I'm kind of mixed because that section Dathomir I think was like just the worst to play in that game, but there was a lot of cool like story elements going on there, but just like gameplay wise it was kind of a mess and just like the least interesting. It was so super linear and all that too, where the other areas were just so well designed in terms of that Metroidvania sort of style to them. Tell me about this robot here. Have you ever seen this robot before?
What the heck this thing is?
I quite like the style of it. It's kind of got like a big like turtleneck on, and then like a tiny little like Hey Arnold head on top of it.
Reminds me of like a Fallout kind of aesthetic.
Sure. Yeah. Kind of like slender but thick at the same time. And then I'm guessing this is like your pilot because it seemed like he's in the background of that shot.
Yeah, he is not from the first game, so he's definitely a new character, a new ally.
And I think there was another clip that they showed recently of like some customization. I don't know if you saw that clip where there's like some area, I don't know if it's on Coruscant or something, where you can like build out an area of your own, like a little home base or something like that. Which, because in the first game, right, you had your ship and there was like some very minor customization you could do.
You could plant seeds, I think.
Yeah, like pretty much that was it, right? And then like you could, of course, customize your lightsaber and your outfits and like even B12, whatever his name is. You could customize him to some extent too, right? So it seems like that's something they're kind of doubling down on. Hopefully that's meaningful, or even if it's just cosmetic, hopefully it's like pretty solid. And I wonder if you can customize the ship even more, or if they're just like moving that customization to that home base area and then the ship kind of works the same. But I think it'll be cool to kind of have a bit of a crew in this game. It seems like that will be somewhat the case. I feel like the first game was really just you and the robot, and then you'd have people you bump into in certain locations, but to have that witch lady with you at certain times and like having the pilot and whatnot, hopefully this cast of side crew is pretty fun and engaging.
I agree. Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, this like golem creature looks like a really fun boss fight.
That's the classic Rancor. They were plenty in Star Wars Force Unleashed, so to square up against one here is going to be a good time.
And then I totally forgot about this weirdo, this short guy with the hair and stuff like that. He was definitely in the first game, but I can't remember what he was like too much.
Yeah, he was definitely like the two characters actually right on screen here is a perfect example of my kind of attachments to that first game because these are two of my more favorite
Yeah.
characters.
Right. Well, it's a good thing they're coming back then. I'm guessing this is another Tatooine section with the sandstorms going on where you're fighting, what are those called? AT-ATs? What those ones are
That
called?
is the ATST.
AT-ST. So that looks cool. And then one of these, I feel like these robots are popping up everywhere in Star Wars nowadays.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere for sure.
Mandalorian and whatnot. So yeah, it's just like some combo attacks that you're doing, whether it's just cutscene or if she's actually with you in combat. I'm not sure, but showing a couple sequences here where she's doing some Force stuff with you. I feel like this guy seems like a big deal, this boss here.
He is, and I just wish I knew what that big deal was. I mean, there is some significance on his race or species, I guess, and I don't know a lot about that and that backstory, but he is a very important character, and I'm assuming he's just a bounty hunter at this point in the story.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah, he kind of looks like maybe Thanos is. Well, he could be like another son. He could be Thane's brother or something.
Yeah.
Seems like you're gonna have a cool boss fight with him and whatnot. Is this in Coruscant at this point? Kind of hard to tell at this. This probably looks like in space actually, because I see a planet in the background there.
You
and
see a
some
planet
darkness
in the background, eh?
Well, I think so. Is this not a
Oh
planet
yeah,
over here?
right over there. Yeah.
And like just open space. Like maybe this is just a space station up here.
Interesting. Yeah. You're probably right.
I forget if there's anything. Oh yeah, this is probably pretty exciting. I as someone who has some nostalgia for the prequels, yeah, seeing the droidicas here, I just love them. They're great.
Yeah, I think this could maybe be a flashback scene because when you look at the way the layout is, that looks very, very like Starship on Phantom Menace, like early Star Wars prequel era. And we know that first one was littered with flashbacks of order, like leading up to Order 66. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is something along those lines. And I'd love that. I'd love to experience it.
Okay, cool. Seem like they're probably pretty fun to fight, and look, it's just ripping them apart. So satisfying. And some more characters here. Okay, yeah. So this is where we see like one of these mounts, and I don't know the name of this thing. Do you know the name of this thing?
I have no idea. It's a tauntaun bird-looking thing.
Tauntaun bird-looking thing. So yeah, it seems like some of these areas that you're going to explore. Also, do you know the name of this planet? Is this planet look familiar to you?
This I don't know what the name is. It looks kind of like the planet like we've seen at the start. Like it looked like the planet where a ship crash landed at one point in the trailers. Definitely. So
yeah, but yeah. Anyway, these mounts. So I guess part of this is that it seems like this game, to some extent, the areas are going to be more open than they were in the first game. And I don't know if it's in this trailer, but there's just like I've seen a couple other trailers where. I don't know. It seems like a much more open space where I feel like the other one was very much like smaller corridors, more linear areas, but then there's obviously a lot of backtracking and side paths and shortcuts and all that kind of good stuff. But obviously you would think with mounts, they would probably put those in there because if these sections are bigger, then you can just move across them more quickly. And then once again, this is a good way that they can make it so that, okay, only this mount can access this particular part of the map. So you need it for that Metroidvania sort of style. So it seems like a good addition. I'm curious if they are used in combat at all, or if you just kind of like do a big superhero landing kind of jump attack off of them into a combat sequence. But yeah, how do you feel about the kind of open, like let's say larger, more open spaces in the sequel here?
I think that's a vast improvement for sure, but then I'm very much a fan of the linear story. I think what went wrong with Assassin's Creed, from my perspective, is it just got way too big. There was just way too much to do. It was so overwhelming, and I think that's great for completionists. There's lots of people that love that, but for me personally, I kind of like that simplistic a degree of open world like that first one is, but you're still following a linear narrative path forwards, and I don't have to feel overwhelmed. I don't feel like, oh, if I want to boot it up, I'm going to spend a half an hour getting from point A to point B exploring. I'm not going to get to do the story really.
Right. Yeah, I hope there's a nice balance here, because I think it's good to, if you could intermix some more open areas, just even in terms of like a pacing element of it, that could be a nice thing to do. And it'd be cool if you get to explore a town or something like that. But I really did love that general design ethos, especially in those first two worlds. The the first one's more of a tutorial, smaller section, but then that second world that I can't remember the name of was just really, really great. Like one of my favorite just levels in video games in that year that it came out. So I really hope that we don't lose that, and I hope that we don't lose that just because, like, okay, this is a sequel, and we don't really have a way for you to unlock these abilities and incentivize you to come back in the same way the first game did. So hopefully they still have a bunch of fresh ideas to do that. And yeah, I think mounts can be a nice kind of in between there. But yeah, hopefully there's like a nice mix of different types of planets too. I think that will just give you a good variety of ways that you're going to engage with this game. So let's see what else here. Some other battling going on here. It's more of like a sizzle reel at this point. But yeah, there you go. April 28th, this thing is coming out. Anything that we didn't mention strictly when we were going through that breakdown there that you've been thinking about this game?
I've been very curious about how they're going to incorporate this character from the High Republic. This Force user, I won't say he's a Jedi, but he's wearing those High Republic former Jedi robes, and he's obviously the guy that's been in that Bacta tank just brewing up a storm for a while.
Okay.
And so here he is. He's back. He's alive. And that's what I'm curious on, because we haven't not had any High Republic stuff brought into any mediums of Star Wars yet, aside from the comic books and the main chapter novels as well. So this will be the first entry point, and then obviously we have Acolyte, that show coming later. But there was a brief shot of him in this trailer, which was very, very brief. But that's what I'm most excited for, is just to kind of see what's going on and what are his motives and how he ties into this kind of story. Now, the first game had this whole thing going on with these. Again, this is where it felt very Uncharted. Like, you go into these ancient tombs doing these puzzles. You had all these like ancient Force user beings and whatnot, which was cool, but I wasn't really getting into that kind of storyline. So I think them focusing on something like this on an already established book universe that they've created, I think that we can get into something pretty cool.
And it probably gives them a bit more freedom too, when it comes to stuff like that, related to even just if they were to pull something from a TV show, from one of the movies, even stuff like that robot that we were talking about there, the one that was like in Mandalorian and stuff. Like, obviously when they're ripping something like that, they're going to keep the design one-to-one. But if you're pulling stuff from the books, you probably have more freedom, even just in terms of the art style and the way you want to have them sound and whatnot. So I think bringing in some other characters from those storylines that you mentioned could be something that would be pretty cool. One thing I saw, and I would love to be fact-checked on this because I just cannot believe it, but I saw this today, that apparently this game is going to be 150 gigabytes of space.
Yeah.
Did you see that too?
I did see that.
What the fuck? That is, I cannot understand that. How is that possible?
Yeah, I
the
don't
first
get
game
it.
must be like 40 or 50 or something like that.
Totally. Like, this is way bigger than a Call of Duty Warzone, and Call of Duty Warzone,
which is
those are huge.
known for being egregious.
Yeah. So I'm not looking forward to that. I've got this issue with the new Xbox Series X where new games that I'm downloading can't be saved to just my old external hard drives like I used to use with my original Xbox One, because the games are running at a higher rate and more demanding. So I need that proper storage card. Now, again,
which is not super cheap, and they don't think they've dropped the price on that thing yet.
That's not dropped, but I've been forced to eyeball it, and I think, okay, I'm not gonna cheapen out on this. It's storage, so why would I buy one for like $2.99? That's 1 terabyte. I feel like, okay, I at least got to go 2 terabytes, which is again double that price, like $400 to $500. But at least then I can play. So my issue is trying to balance games between, like, I have hard drives plugged in, but they kind of just the content sits there, and then when I want to play the game, I transfer it over onto my main console. I just kind of bump it around the saves. But
is that pretty quick to do, to move them between the?
No, I feel like you're just installing the game over again. But
no, yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah, it's some older games on Games Pass it'll work, and they're not demanding, so I can put them on those. Those
even
hard
then,
drives.
Older games though, like usually a lot smaller in general, anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just if I got to keep downloading these COD updates, that's going to be the big problem, because when I was at 3 CODs before Warzone 2, man, that was some dire stuff. Oh, man.
I know. I really wish those games let you selectively uninstall like the content you don't need. Like for me, who is only playing Warzone 2 on one map, like I do not need all this other 100 gigs of garbage that they have there on my hard drive. So I've definitely noticed that too this last month, where it's like, okay, I still have Hogwarts Legacy installed because like I'm still want to jump back to that every once in a while. Midnight Suns, I'm still waiting for those DLC packs, so I have that going. I have Resident Evil on there, still playing Warzone. Like I have too many things that like I'm not playing every day, but I need on there still, and I'm like just out of space at this point. So I guess it's a good thing that I don't have time for Jedi Survivor here because I don't even have the hard drive space for it. I don't have any external hard drive stuff yet. So hopefully they can shrink that down because I remember that was a thing that Hitman was able to do, where it's like whatever it was, Hitman 2's took like 80 gigabytes or something, and then they made it in Hitman 3 where you can import your save stuff from Hitman 1 and 2, so it was like a trilogy of games, but then all of that was like 60 gigs, so they somehow shrunk down all that file space down to like just a much more palatable amount. So hopefully they can do that here, and that's something they can do in the next couple weeks before this game comes out. But like, that is insane. I don't know if they're just super inefficient with the way they track stuff, or if this game is huge, but I doubt it's like much longer than the first game. Maybe there's like a shit ton of music or something, and that takes up a ton of space. I don't know, but
Jeez.
I hope they figure it out, man.
Yeah, I know we're in a day and an age where games are getting more advanced and more developed, but maybe it's just my lack of just coming to terms with, like, I don't understand why the data should be getting that much bigger too. Like a 3-hour a movie is very different, but a 3-hour long movie, you're still looking at like 4 or 5 gigabytes. And I guess just the way it's going with games. So
yeah, just I'm curious on this too. So I was just looking up like what is the default storage that your Series X comes with, which it's like a terabyte, but then like with all the stuff that's needed on the console, it ends up being about 800 gigs. So that's like an eighth, or that's more than an eighth of your space for just this one game. What is the PS5's hard drive space by default?
they had 500 gigabytes, and then it has to be a terabyte as well. I think they had different models, or maybe that was the PS4.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a quick answer here. Yeah, 825. But once you get to actual space, you can use 660 gigs. So that's ridiculous. That's using like about a fifth, sixth of your console space just on this one stupid game. So that's crazy.
So it's 150 gigs across the board then for PlayStation, PC, and Xbox users then.
I think usually, I don't think games ever really get smaller on different consoles, but I could be wrong on that. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, anything else on Jedi Survivor? You're picking it up. Travis is picking it up. So a review will happen from you guys. I don't know when that will happen. Probably a week or two after the game comes out. Something like that, right?
Yeah, I think we're looking at sometime middle May, I believe, just so we can kind of like take our time. That was the one thing with the first one. Like we rushed through that, and some of those fights, I mean, they were killing me. I was so mad. I was screaming, and I was just thinking, man, I got review in 2 days, and I can't get through this fucking boss battle. God damn. So I have a little bit of breather here. This will be nice.
That's a good call. Yeah, definitely. You'll enjoy the experience more if you don't rush it as much. With that, let's take our last break here, and then we just have one more kind of shorter topic to close off the show with, but we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. So this has been something that's been on my mind a bit last few weeks, and since this is a bit of a slower news week, I thought it was a good time to have this conversation. But I know you just mentioned that you're not really playing a ton like through Game Pass, ton of different games right now. You kind of just got your bread and butter right now, and then you're probably just buckling up for Jedi Survivor, of course. But how have you, just because I'm sure you're like still checking out Game Pass, see what's going on there to see if there's anything new that you want to check out. How do you feel like the service has been in the last? I'm just gonna say this year. Let's just say the first 4 months of this year. Like if you're not playing anything on there right now, but has there been anything this year that's grabbed you? That's got you to install a new game to check anything out?
Oh gosh, again, it's been a good minute since I've gone on Games Pass, but you're right. I normally after a Warzone session, I'll sit back. I won't power down yet. I'll go on Games Pass and I'll snoop around and see what's on there. And usually I'm looking for older games. I usually eye up, not that I get around to playing them, but Dead Space, Resident Evils. I look for those older titles that maybe I could just kind of get my toes wet on a franchise. And then I'm also looking into newer titles as well that like those bigger titles that haven't, that I'm not going to go out and buy and pay the $89 for. So that's usually what I'm on the prowl for whenever I go into Games Pass.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, because I'm checking this thing all the time, and I'm always wanting to look into new things. And I admittedly have been busy this year with having the Arcane Retro. Like, obviously that's taken a lot of my gaming time. But I just feel like it has been a very weak offering lately. And, I can look at it, and like they had Hi-Fi Rush in January that we talked about. So that was like a cool drop. And then Atomic Heart was like a pretty big third-party game, but I don't think that blew lit the world on fire was the phrasing I was looking for there. Wolong, Fallen Dynasty, Fallen Kingdom, whatever that's called, came out last month, and a lot of people were into that if you're into like Souls-like games. So like each month they've had one like pretty good size release, but I feel like for me, it's those indie games that get me excited. It's the things that I didn't even know existed, and then I see on Game Pass it's dropping in a week, and then I'm like, oh, that looks really cool. Pre-install, let's go. I can't wait to check that thing out. Or even just there were so many cases last year where there was an indie game I was really looking forward to, and then just like a couple weeks before it came out, they're just like, oh yeah, this is coming to Game Pass, by the way, and it's dropping there day one. I was like, that's great. Like Tunic was like that. It was a big surprise. Weird West was another one. Nobody Saves the World, TMNT. Like there was a ton of stuff like that, and particularly in the first few months of the year, where I was just eating up Game Pass, and it was great. And I just feel like this year has been super weak. Right? I did check out Hi-Fi Rush. I still have not checked out those other two. I have Atomic Heart downloaded on my hard drive, but after hearing the reviews and just impressions, people were not too hot on it. I still just haven't got around to it. But I've been like looking for some of those indie things too, and then I just feel like every couple weeks they say here's what's coming to Game Pass and here's what's leaving. And when I look at that what's leaving list, it has been huge lately. They are just they're getting rid of 12 games and they're adding 2 to 3 games to the service, and I feel like it's been like that this whole year. And so I don't know if part of that is because a lot of deals do tend to be kind of like a 12-month sort of thing, and since I mentioned the start of last year was so strong that naturally we're a year later, so a lot of those things are leaving now. But then there's other strange things that just seem to be disappearing from the platform. So yeah, I don't know what's going on over there, and I feel like part of it is that now, okay, Xbox acquired all those studios over the years, Bethesda and Obsidian and Mojang, all these other things, and I feel like for a lot of those, we still have not seen the fruits of that labor. Since they've acquired them, those games have still not come out. Well, tons of them are announced. We know a lot about them, but we're still waiting. And I think that might be part of it, is now we're actually getting to that point where those things are truly coming out in a big way. Because on the Series X still, like Halo 5 and Forza were like the two big, huge first-party Xbox exclusives, and Hi-Fi Rush was, ended up being a pretty big deal. People like that. Excuse me, but we're still waiting on a lot of those things, and I feel like we're actually getting to that point now where Minecraft Legends is coming out in just a few weeks. Oh god, sorry, I got a tickle in my throat here. Redfall, that's gonna be a pretty big one. Later in the year, Starfield, things like that. So is that, where do you think it comes down to? Is that they're like, okay, finally our first party is picking up, so we're gonna do less of these third-party deals? Is it just a weird timing thing? Or am I just going crazy in here and like being greedy and wanting too much? Like, has it just been good and I'm just too greedy? What do you think it is?
I think it's definitely attributed to healthy circulation. Again, the contracts do end, and sometimes a developer may choose to just pull their game and like, hey, we've got a lot of play time on Games Pass, but maybe let's pull our game off there. Maybe we can generate some sales. Maybe we can make a little bit of cash that way, more so than our deal with Xbox. That being said, I do think that Microsoft has an ace up their sleeve when it comes to this sort of thing. I think if they want to direct and steer people and their Game Pass subscribers towards certain titles, they will do that. And if that means pulling off certain games, or like Netflix sometimes, movies here this week and then it's gone next and it's back 2 months later, that could be the thing here. Or maybe like, yeah, we're just going to pull your game off for this period of time. You can start selling it, or not start selling it, but maybe if it's off Game Pass, you can earn actual sales that way instead of through our affiliation with us, and then we can put on this larger title like a Redfall, make some money that way, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, I wonder if part of it too is kind of just comes down to what's been going on with the Activision Blizzard thing, because we're coming to like a 1 year anniversary of that being announced, and then it's just been like in the courts over and over again, getting tossed back and forth. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen. It's going through. It's not going through. Sony's going in there throwing shade. All of this stuff. Like, it's like this never-ending debacle. I haven't even really talked about it much on Sidequest because it just kind of tires me out hearing this. I don't know if there's much commentary we can add until like anything's officially actually in the can there. But I wonder if that's part of it. Of okay, last year that was announced, and Xbox has been gearing up, getting ready for that, and they're expecting that in the near future, hopefully, they're going to have access to that huge catalog of games, and they can start pumping things out like crazy, right? They can just start dishing out, here's a bunch of like Tony Hawk games 1 week. The next week, we're going to drop like Diablo 3 is on Game Pass now. Next week, Diablo 4 is on there. And then, Overwatch 2, like they can really they have so much stuff that they can slowly drip feed if they want, or they could dump it on there all at once like they did with Bethesda when they acquired that. It seemed like almost everything went on there like kind of immediately. I think with Blizzard, they might do well to just fracture that a little bit. So I wonder if that's part of it, just from the perspective of like, okay, they were making less deals this time a year ago because they were figuring that the Activision thing is going to be happening. They're going to have access to that library. But then also, maybe they just have to, watch the pennies a bit more just because of how much money they are spending. They have spent on that. It's kind of unclear how much money, if that money has gone through it all yet. But that's probably part of it too, of like maybe even that, it's like that's been a big thing with Sony is like, oh, all this stuff is exclusive, so like it's not competitive, which I hate Sony's side of this argument. But of course they're trying to make sure that Xbox doesn't get it so they can still have access to all these things. But maybe that's part of it too, is like their Xbox is just trying to weaken their hand a bit and be like, we just don't have that much over here, and like we don't want to sling our money around to get timed exclusives right now because it's a bad look for them trying to get this deal. So that's getting a bit like tinfoil hatty, but I feel like there's been something going on there, and it has been a pretty weak stretch. And even like the end of 2022, I feel like there wasn't a whole lot. It was really that first half of the year to me that was like a very, very strong showing for the service. So
yeah,
I say all this, and then I'm going to immediately take it back because I actually think April is looking like a really solid month for the service, and I think this is a good sign of things to come because even like next month, as I mentioned, Redfall, sooner rather than later that Activision thing's going to go through and we'll start getting some of those drops. And then already into September, Starfield, that is a huge thing to have on the service. So obviously that'll be a big deal. But looking at this month, they just put Loop Hero up there, which is not a new game by any means, but like a really great indie title. So if anyone has not played that yet, it's a really, really great game. You should definitely check it out. Taylor, I think that would be a good one, like post Warzone, just like do a night or two in that game. I think that would be a good one for that. Ghostwire Tokyo, which of course is a PlayStation exclusive for 1 year, is now on Xbox as of today. So that's downloadable.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So I have that pre-downloaded. I'm going to check that out soon here because I really wanted to check that game out. And I just don't have a PS5, so I didn't play it. And now that it's on Game Pass, that's awesome because of course Tango Gameworks, same developers, Hi-Fi Rush, so it's first-party studio. Minecraft Legends coming out later this month, so that's another big, huge thing. People, Minecraft's a big deal, so that's pretty cool. Coffee Talk 2, that was one of those surprise ones for me where I love Coffee Talk. Very excited for the sequel, and then they're just like, they announced a few days ago, yeah, it's coming to Game Pass, by the way, so you can just play it there, so that's really cool. Another game called Homestead Arcana, which kind of looks like a bit of a Stardew Valley-ish sort of thing, so that's, a very important niche, cool thing to get on there. And then this other 2D platformer called The Last Case of Benedict Fox that they've shown off in a few of their like Xbox developer showcases and whatnot. So it's been an indie game that's not a first party, but I think it's pretty closely associated to Xbox. That's coming out this month as well. So that's April. That's 1 month right there, and that's all 6 of those games plus other things as well. So even though there is still stuff leaving, I actually think that's a really great showing, and hopefully it's just. This is like the turning point, and then we can be back on the upswing because last year was insane, like the output they had on there. Just looking at my game of the year list, my top 25 games, and the fact that like half of them were things on Game Pass was just like amazing to see. So hopefully they turn the corner here shortly.
I hope so. My goodness.
Well, you're going to be playing Redfall, of course, with me and the rest of the crew, right? We'll be jumping in there.
I expect everyone on the crew to be diving in. We got to fill those slots. We need to form a team, kill some vampires.
I'll be on 24/7, so yeah, I'll need like a rotation of people to come in there and make sure I have people to jam around this open world with, which very, very excited for that. But yeah, I think that was pretty much it. Anything else you want to say in closing here, Mr. Fields, for this week?
No, I think that's it. Next time I'm on, I'll let you know how my Mario playthroughs are going.
Yeah, no, I love that. Keep me updated on the Mario playthroughs. Yes, thank you everyone for listening. If you like the Star Wars discussion, want to hear more of that, go check out Taylor and Travis breaking down all the movie news. And then I think even you and Kirkland are going to break down some more of this Star Wars news at some point on Weekly Geek or something like that. So just stay tuned to the feed, subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a review, please. It means a lot to us if you do that. And thank you everyone for listening. We will see you again in just a few days. Bye-bye.
Bye.